Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Alright, let's do this. We are still reviewing the Star Wars Empire comic books, and when last we left off, it was issue number 28. Now this one's written by Ron Marz, and this one stars Boba the Fett. Yes, everyone's favorite bounty hunter, as he goes on a mission to recover a holo projector from a downed Star Destroyer, and he has to fight off some Imperials who don't want anyone getting it, much less the Fett. Now, I've said this before, but every time they made a Fett story, my gut would just clench. Could be like, oh, is this going to suck? Oh, please don't suck. And most times, it didn't suck. And this is one of the cases where it didn't suck. Was it totally awesome? Meh. It was okay, but at least it didn't suck. Which I guess is a win for me. But let's get to the meat of the conversation here. I want to start you off on the Empire comic books 29 and 30, and just hold up right there. 29 and 30, these are written by Thomas Andrews, and this one, basically the rebels are trying to free Jabiim from the Empire. It stars Wes and Hobbs, everyone's favorite X-Wing pilots, and of course Luke Skywalker as well, with a mix of other characters that make appearances in it too. But, of course, we know what Jabiim is because, well, years ago on my channel, and not too long ago in the published world, came out the Battle of Jabiim from the Clone Wars comic books. Now, I don't have to remind you how much I loved that Clone Wars story about the Battle of Jabiim. I think it's really one of the finest, one of the best Clone Wars stories ever to come out of the expanded universe. So, it's not that surprising that the Empire comic book would want to copy that, you know, just kind of hop off that success and say, okay, 20 years later, what's going on with Jabiim? Let's check it out. You know, now the rebels want to free it from the Empire. Oh, and you're excited because they said Jabiim, right? Now remember, publication-wise, these came out pretty close together. So I think there were maybe only 2 years or so in between them, may have been 3, but either way, it's not important. What it is it wasn't 20 years ago when we read the comic book, it was just a few years ago, and everyone was still glowing about that comic book. So Dark Horse wisely said, you know what? We need to bring this battle back to Jabiim some way. We need to tie this in together because people are going to eat that up, and they're right. When I was reading the comic book, I had started reading. I was like, oh, wait, Jabiim. Wait, they go back to Jabiim? You know, I was getting all excited already. Now, I want to take a break here because if you remember, the reason I stopped buying Empire back in the day when it was coming out was because of the order that they would publish stories out. For instance, the big storyline that I reviewed a while back had like the first 3 parts in it, and I kept waiting for part 4, but instead of that, they did a different comic book about something else. They did another irrelevant comic book, not about the Bigs, and I was like, did you guys just forget about Bigs? And then I stopped getting it, and wouldn't you know, the very next issue was part 4 of the big storyline. But why? Why bring out all these little one-shot junk in between 4? Was there a delay? And the writer and artist couldn't only got the first 3, and then they were still working on the 4th one, so delay, they put other ones in there? Was it a big mistake by the chief editor? I have no idea, but get this. They do it again. Now, I have the trade paperbacks where they kind of put everything together, but when this was coming out, they had issue 29, which everyone was like, Battle of Jabiim, this is awesome, let's do this. You know, number 30 comes out. You're like, yeah, I can't wait for part 3 of this 5-part series. And you know what came out in issue 31? A story about Darth Vader visiting the planet Tashari. It was written by Scott Alley. And the thing is, though, this came out of nowhere. This had nothing to do with the Battle of Jabiim. It was just Vader visiting a planet where it's normal to assassinate your political rival. And if you don't get the assassination, oh well, shame on you. You know, if you did, great, you get to take their position. And so Vader's there just to kind of lay the law down. I'm the Empire, I'm Darth Vader, I'm Lord of the Sith, yada, yada, yada. It has nothing to do with the Battle of Jabiim, and it was fit in the middle of this 5-part series. So you get part 1, part 2, irrelevant story, which, to be honest, wasn't really that good. Part 3, 4, and 5. Why? Why? Now, if I hadn't quit, you know, the first time I worked with Empire, I would have had a serious problem with this. In fact, I didn't even know they shot this story in between the Battle of Jabeim, or the revisit to Jabeim. I can't remember what actually the story arc's called right now. But anyway, that they fit it in between that'd tick me off. Because at this point in the comic book, the year is 2005. Why would you make a mistake like that? Why would you say, hey, let's do a 5-part series? Oh, wait, in the middle of it, let's just throw this irrelevant story in there. Because honestly, in issues 32, 33, and 34, they finish off the story, and Vader comes in at the end. So I guess this is to tell us what Vader was up to in the first 2 issues? It doesn't make any sense to me, the publication order of this, okay? Chronologically, you can put the Vader storyline right in there, or before it, or after it, because it really doesn't matter. But my point is, who is the dummy who is putting these, in my opinion, out of sequence? Because you think if you have a 5-part series, you want to read it consecutively, not throw some garbage in there that, I don't know, maybe you said, okay, now we've teased them with Jabeim, they'll buy anything. Hurry, bring out this garbage. I don't know what the thinking was. And by the way, folks, I have hit every known contact who've worked with Dark Horse, and no one can give me a name or reason of why this happened. First, the Biggs incident, which is the one I was asking about, and now this one I found out. No one knows why, or no one will tell me why they got it out of order. Now, in the Galaxy Far, Far Away, which I actually have the book right here, Rich Handley, this is from Sequart, a book I've already talked about in the past. But anyway, great book about the EU comic books. Rich Handley wrote a little story in here kind of making fun of how the UK comic books came out of sequence. Like they put, or they put this adventure and then said they mentioned this adventure, but they don't publish that till later, till after this adventure. They just swap these 2 adventures back like that, or they slid in this adventure in between these 2. And he's kind of like just laughing, like, what were they thinking? Well, dadgum, in the U.S. in 2005, he was talking about the 70s, the late 70s, early 80s when they were messing things up. I can understand that. People probably didn't care as much because comic books, like I said, were considered a lot for kids. So there wasn't as much attention to it. But there should have been tons of attention in 2005 not to put it out of order. Okay, I'm done. I'm sitting back here. Let me just tell you about this series. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. Luke has to deal with the sins of his father, Anakin Skywalker. The events that happen in that Clone Wars series impact Luke because his last name is Skywalker. He doesn't know why people are angry with his dad at first. He doesn't know what's going on because of this, but he's just trying to free a planet. So there is a lot of callbacks to that Clone Wars series. And is it good? Yeah, it's good. It's not better than the Battle of Jabeim, though. And I kind of wonder, is this why I like it so much? Because it talks about one of my favorite Clone Wars stories. Possibly, but no, I'm going to say that it's a good series regardless of that, because I did enjoy them returning to Jabeim and the adventures that ensued. All right, folks, that is all the time I have for now. See you next time with another video.